Hey, welcome back to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. I am the Backyard Professor. Since I am making the study of tactics one of the main courses in my chess diet this year, I thought I would show a few selections from the book Chess Tactics for Champions by Susan Polgar. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this book. All of us ought to be. I'm working my way through this and several other tactics books as I get along through in this year, and I'm doing pretty good. I'm making decent progress. But there's a couple of ideas here that I want to share with you and show with you just to keep your eye on this in an opening. As we play thousands and thousands of games, I'm not quite at 300 yet, so I'm nowhere near where I need to be. We get an intuitive feel for when an opening is odd, and that's when tactics can show up. So let me show you this real quick. She's showing us a very interesting situation here that can happen. Now, interestingly, tactics can happen at any time in the game. Right at the very beginning, anywhere in the middle, and anywhere in the end game. So it's important not to turn our brains off I've got this all wrong. Hang on. There, that's better. I had to change my letters and numbers. Man, you know, I go 5 days without making videos, and I'm a blundering blunderhead. Of course, and I do that in my chess games far too often, too. So, you know, as in life, so in chess, I blunder along. So we've got this opening at this point, and he fianchettos his bishop. Black will fianchetto, right? Knight f3. The opening is coming along fine. This is the modern defense, for those of you who don't know. d6. Bishop to c4. Now, this is kind of interesting. At this point, knight d7, and there's a question mark here. So right off in the opening, I mean, we're not even into move 5 yet. We're on move 4, and there's a question. Hold on, this is a serious error. Why? You say, look, it's a developing move. He's contacting squares here that are being challenged by white. White has a real good pawn center. Black has the beginning of a pawn center. Black wants to own the e5 square. What on earth can be wrong with that knight move right there? Let's see. Because now you can go bishop f7 check immediately. And you go, why on earth would I want to do that stupid move? Hold it. Don't be too quick to judge. Let's take a look here. This is a nice sacrifice that gives white a decisive advantage when the opening is like this. Let's take a look. Of course, the king is going to take the bishop. You got to take the bishop. But I expose my king, yes, but you have to take that bishop. That's just how it is. Knight g5 check. King comes back to e8, and here's the question. Here's the issue. At this point, knight e6 traps the queen. Just that fast, you guys. It's astonishing, if we're not careful, how fast we can fall into a trap like this. Now let me show you a variation real quick. What if, from here, when he put him in check again, what if he went to f6? Then we've got checkmate. That fast. True story. Very interesting, isn't it? What happens if from here, instead of coming forward and instead of going to e8, he goes to f8? Then you've got the knight fork of the king and the queen. No matter what happens, this is brutal, right? So pay attention to little things like that. I'm going to show you 3 more openings that just 3 miniatures is how Polgar calls it, to show you some tactical motifs in some openings. Hang on, I'll be right back. This next game is the Caro-Kann opening, the Caro-Kann defense. Let's take a look at what happens. E4, C6, and you can recognize the Caro-Kann immediately. D5, there's your Caro-Kann pawn formation. And now E5 and bishop F5. So we're getting going along, tra-la-la-la-line. Bishop to D3, stand up straight and tall, dude. And now the bishop takes D3. Now pay attention to what happens here. This is really kind of interesting. Rather than retake with the pawn and double the pawns in the center, the queen will take the bishop here. And now E6, solid center by both of them with their pawns, right? And now knight to E2, C5, and C3, and knight E7. So they're getting a development going along, which is really nice. Queen B5, and you go, isn't that a little early to get your queen out, and aren't you making a lot of queen moves? Let's see. Queen to D7. Black probably was thinking that. He was thinking, you know, white has lost a tempo or two here. It'd be worth getting that queen off the board, right? But instead of exchanging queens, white takes the pawn. Okay, so are you getting a little bit of compensation for all your queen moves, because you did get a pawn which does hit the center, and it really does open up a wonderful partial open file for you, right? If you're black likes this, but white is getting material, so there's ups and downs. However, knight F5, and you go, what's the big deal about that? Notice the discovery attack. This is the tactical motif. The discovery attack is on the queen. Now I had someone, in fact, I have a lot of discovery attacks done at me online, and I just get blister caked. I get clobbered, man. Kablam, blown off the board. But I'm getting better at recognizing tactical motifs. I just have to back up one or two steps to get to the point to where I know it's being set up for that, and that's why we practice tactics. It's great to see the tactic once it's thrown on you, but what sucks is you lose your piece. You need to see it one or two steps before. Trust me, I am the authority on that. I get more tactics thrown at me and I get clobbered than anyone else. Or so it seems. So I'm just saying. So now look at this interesting situation. The only escape square for that queen, and it looks like, well, it's not that big a deal. But the only safe spot for the queen is A5. Check that out on your own. Every other square, you can lose the queen. And then, of course, you have B6. Blam, you got a queen. So this is a great little micro lesson. Once again, yeah, white got a pawn. Too many queen moves in the opening can get you in a lot of trouble, right? Hang on, and I'll show you one more. This next opening with tactics is the queen gambit, actually, accepted. Let's take a look at this one. D4, of course, you're going to open up with the queen pawn, and you're going to answer, and you're going to go to C4, and D is going to take the C pawn. That is the queen gambit accepted. You threw up the gambit pawn, and black said, okay, I'll take it. That's the queen gambit accepted. So you go to E3, and he comes to B5. Now, Polgar, who was the women's world champion at one point, says it's not a good idea. If you're black, this is good information to know. If you're playing white, who's playing queen gambit accepted, and if you play me often online, you're going to get this opening because it's one of my favorites as white. Whether it's declined or accepted, I'm no good at it yet. I'm working on it. But I play this a lot. except with my good friend Boris Ospassky. Boris, baby, you get a shout out, bud. I played the Ruy Lopez with him. He's even getting books on learning the opening. And this last week, a couple of those games, he trounced me, man. Way to go. Good job, Boris. So I am beating him back, though. But yeah, the Ruy Lopez is good. The Queen Pawn Gambit accepted and declined is good. However, as black, don't worry about keeping that pawn. If you don't defend the pawn, the idea in the Queen Gambit accepted is you took the white pawn, be willing to give the pawn back. For instance, let's say you did something smart and put your knight out. White is going to take that pawn back with the bishop, and that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about hanging on to the pawn so much as black. You will give it back. If you decide you want to try to keep it, you better play better than this example, because watch what happens here. This is really interesting. Blam, A4, immediately hitting the supporting pawn of the pawn so that you can take it, yeah? And now we're into trouble, because now he goes C6. He says, oh yeah, you're going to attack my pawn, then I will support that pawn, right? There's nothing wrong with that, except A will take the pawn. You lost your pawn. And you go, that's not a big deal. B can take the pawn back, and I'm still a pawn up. Correct. However, white goes here and gets your rook. Pretty nasty setup just for wanting to hang on to a pawn, isn't it? You're going to lose a rook. So this, or at least a bishop, if you want to put the bishop up there, or a bishop and a rook. You wouldn't lose the bishop and the rook, because if you did something really stupid like this, don't. And no, thank goodness I haven't yet. But if you're playing someone who really does this, then you take the bishop, of course. And then in order to save the rook, then move the knight. So you lose the bishop instead of the rook, but the point is you're a piece down. Because you wanted to try to save this little monkey there, he's not worth it. A bishop is vastly more valuable than that little C4 pawn. So that's the idea with that one. I have one more quick opening miniature I want to show you with the tactical motif that is really fun. Okay, this last tactical motif that I want to show you from an opening is also in Polgar. Oh, that last... Hang on here. Hold on for a minute. Oh man, where was it? Oh, I can't find it now. Anyway, this motif is on page 301. The other motifs are all in one chapter. I don't know where it went. Hold on. Oh, for Pete's sake. Where is it? Skewers, double check, discoveries, removing the guard, pins. Oh, trapping pieces right here. It's on, boy, the things I do for you, my beloved chess fans. I love you guys, man. Pages 117, 118, and 119 for those first three. Now we're going to skip way up to 301. So we're making good progress through Polgar's book by skipping and jumping. Don't do it if you're studying the book. Systematically go through it. That's what I'm doing. And it is improving. I am beginning to see some things. I had a wonderful couple of tactics with some dear and wonderful online friends. Dark Side of War, Open File, Roberto... I can't remember your last name. Sorry, dude. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm telling you. Anyway, we're having some fun showing tactics back and forth with each other. This one, D4, D5. Now, this is the Queen Gambit declined, which means that he pushes the C4 pawn and he does not take the pawn. Instead, he supports his pawn. So he declined the Gambit pawn, right? You're going to run into this a lot with people because the Queen Pawn opening is so delightful to play. I personally really like it. I think it's one of my favorite openings as white, even though I suck with it. Bishop G5. Okay, now we're putting that pin of the knight to the queen here. And remember, that affects the central squares. Don't forget that. That is really important to understand. And there are still people whom I'm talking to, and as we're playing long and all, I'll be talking to them about that, and they do not recognize that. So understand this bishop move can be very useful to you, because now that knight cannot move, right? So that means, as a logical consequence, just explain this just briefly. It's worth a recap, I promise. That means now this square and this square is available for you to hit, take possession of, control it, whatever, because the control, at least from this knight, is no longer there. It's pinned. Just grasp how that works. That's really, in some openings, that makes the difference in the game. I'm so not kidding. In the Ruy Lopez that I'm playing with my dear and glorious, wonderful friend, Boris Ospassky. Well, that's 2 shout-outs in one video, Boris. You owe me another beer. I've given him a couple of take-backs, and he keeps offering me beers. I'm going to get drunker than hell online, and I don't even drink beer through the computer screen yet. Haven't figured out how, you know. Anyway, I don't drink beer anyway, but hey, it's fun. I can act as drunk as you can get, though. I promise. So, anyway, what was I lying about? Let's get on with this. Bishop g5. And now knight b to d7. Now, the knight can come to here. Black can also put it there. I'm just saying that's okay. Okay? At this point. C will go ahead and take that pawn. Now, in the Queen Gambit declined, you don't want to, I mean, it is a matter of timing. It also depends on how you each open. You know, everything depends on that in chess. There's 1,000 different variations. Well, way more than that. I'm under-exaggerating for the first time in my life. There's another under-exaggerate. Did you get the pun? Yeah, okay, whatever. In the Queen Gambit declined, taking that pawn is always beneficial. Now watch, somebody is gonna come and prove me wrong, which isn't that hard to do. I've been proven wrong about 1 trillion times since I've been online, you know. Yeah, baby. So take the pawn, and now the E pawn will take the D pawn, which is truly typical. Yes, there are times, not here though, see, it prevented, this pin prevented the knight taking that pawn. Yeah. Sometimes you want to take it with that knight, but you can't this time because it's pinned. So it does affect the opening and how the pawn structure changes. Now this is the partial open file for black and not this one, etc. There's subtle nuances, but you have to learn to grasp all of those, yes? Now, at this point, the comment is, it seems that white can exploit this pin on the knight and play knight takes d5. So here we go. In this case, this backfires. Big time. And that's why I wanted to show you this tactic, because I myself really like this white opening. And I try to exploit this pin in the center. This is not the way to do it. And it's as good to know what not to do as it is to know what to do, right? To do. Oh, yeah, like a trumpet. Yeah, okay, quit calling the troops and get on with the game here. So knight takes d5, and this sacrifice. Oh no! Oh, you guys! I forgot the heater again! It's down to 20 tonight. You know, May, and it's this cockeyed cold. Holy crap, you know, when will summer come? Hang on, I gotta get to, oh man, this is so embarrassing. Oh well, big deal. Take a break, I'll be right back after this after a few words from our sponsor. Whatever, shut up and turn the heater off, dude. Okay, the knight came here trying to exploit the pin, but black responded by taking the knight. And you go, what a stupid thing to do. No, hold your britches. No, that's a figure of speech, you dork. Come on, Professor. Notice that he gives up his queen. Ouch, you know, would you have the courage to do this? That's what amazes me about tactics. Some tactics requires you to sacrifice a queen or a rook or something like that, and it just scares the snot out of you, doesn't it? I've got to learn how to get over that when practicing tactics in chess games. Sometimes I weenie out, you know. I go, no, I don't want to lose that piece. But there's always a greater good when you show a good sacrificial tactic with sound moves. That is what is crucial. So you lost your queen, but you've got bishop b4 check. Notice the white position. There's only one response. Queen blocks. Isn't that interesting? Queen blocks. So you got your queen back, right? Yeah. Don't hesitate. Take the little lady. Take the queen. And now the king will take your bishop. And now you get the extra piece. You're a piece up as black, showing that sometimes, against the received wisdom of the ages, the pin by the bishop on the knight sometimes won't work. So this is good stuff to know. We're kind of tinkering around with tactics, kind of like you do with mathematics, at least I do, because I love the subject. Math does not love me, but I love math, right? Just like I love chess. Come to think of it, chess doesn't love me either. But it's okay. A one-sided, lopsided affair for 5 or 6 years until chess does fall in love with me is fine by me. Just being aware of potential possibilities. That is what keeps us coming back to chess. Man, if you were able to put that tactic, that trap, onto white, wouldn't that be a kick in the pants? Look at what else you have. Development. Right? And you say, well, you can't castle your king. Don't sweat it. Like Artur Yusupov says, build a fortress around your king. It's not like he's standing out there in the open right now, right? So from here out, you're ahead in development. He's got one pawn in the middle. You don't have pawns in the middle. So like, excuse me, like I was telling my good friend Open File just today, we did some training games online. Those central files are for which piece? The knights? You win the booby prize! Wrong answer, cowboy! But they do belong to rooks. Now, I'm not saying that would be the next best move. I'm just pointing out rooks on open files, on a central open file to boot. Now you're way ahead, although it was white's move. So white makes a move, and you go ahead and make a move, and now you're still way ahead in development. And white can't castle either. And his king is a little bit more precarious than black's because the pawn cover around the white king is blown. Yeah? You're going to have to take a few moves. One, to get... First, you want to get this rook out of here before you put your king back, or else this rook, or both of them. Because once you go back on the back file, you lock in one of your rooks, right? So black here is sitting better positionally, strategically, which means if he has more pieces out faster, he could also exploit more tactics, right? I was going to tell you about our training games. Dark Side of War and I do this all the time. Almost every game we play now. And we are absolutely having a royal blast with it, man. Dark Side of War, I love you, brother. Open File and I are starting to do this. Open File, I love you, brother. I love all of you guys. All of you, even if I don't name you. Here's what we're doing. We're playing along in a game. Now, when you play casual, you can get a take back, right? It's a casual game. It's not rated. It's not a big deal. It's not about winning or losing so much as learning together. So Open File approached me with this idea of rooks on open files. So we got talking back and forth. We began to play a game and we made moves. And he would say, okay, now, when I get to this point, we made 3 or 4 or 5 moves. When I get to this point, if my opponent starts attacking me, I don't have time to open up the files and get my rooks on open files. How do I learn how to do that? So what we did is we set up a game where we played, and I deliberately played a little bit passively. I didn't play weak, letting him romp all over me. But we set it up so that we could start using open files and rooks to see how it works. And if we made a mistake or if we made an error, you can give as many takebacks as you need. You can take it back 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 20 moves, whatever. You can take it back to a critical position and try, hey, let's move our bishop here this time and see how that affects the game. And then make 5 or 6 or 7 moves, and we're talking about what we are seeing in the position, right? And then a Dark Side of War is really good with this. He says, okay, I tried that variation. Let's back up 3 or 4 moves because you had a possibility, instead of moving your rook, what if you put your queen here? Or how about if you do your knight there? Then if you push the pawn, you've got a knight fork because I'm forced to move my queen and you fork my king and rook. Things like that all the time. I play games like that all the time online, and yeah, on your record it shows that you lost the game because you're helping someone else learn how to put together a tactic or a strategy such as rooks on files, or how do you control the center because I get my center blown out all the time. I do this all the time online, and that's the funnest kind of chess. Now, on the flip side, I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago or so, that I didn't want to play any more rated games. And Username, my good friend Username, hey, you get another shout out, Juicer. Joser? I'm going to call you Juicer, O-E. It can have an ooh sound somewhat. Anyway, Username, who can trounce any of us in the club. What was I going to say about him? I can't remember now. Sorry, Juicer. Crap, I'm scuttle-butted because of all this stupid cold outside. I want to go droning, and it's too dang cold, so I have to be inside, although you do get to see part of my library. You know, got some great books, some of Richard Dawkins, some stuff on math and physics, origin of Latin and Greek words, you know, myth, philosophy, history, spirituality, and doubt by Hecht, good book. The Illusion of God's Presence by John Wathy. That's an important book. That's a very good one. Anyway, playing chess does not have to be about winning or losing when you're online. We can get together as friends, and I get to tap into your knowledge, and we can experiment, and you get to tap into my knowledge, and we experiment. For instance, Boris Ospassky. Dude, you are so cool. I love this guy. We have played a lot of games together. He decided I need to learn a chess opening, so he's studying the Ruy Lopez. So every time we get together, we deliberately play the Ruy Lopez, and we alternate black and white. And he's trying to do the book variations. So he will actually tell me sometimes to say, okay, we're 8 moves into it. He says, okay, for this variation, I want to practice this. Go ahead and move the bishop here, or move the rook there, or whatever. So we will do that for a few moves, and then we will play it and see what happens. And then if it doesn't work out the way he's hoping, we take back 5 or 6 or 7 moves and keep on going on our own. That's the fun of casual chess. But I do want to do rated chess also. That's what I was bringing up Juser's name for. He kind of helped me understand that I did not understand the ratings online. Ratings aren't going to go, they aren't going to bottom out, because it's designed so that you level out at whatever rating you are. So if you guys want to play rated games, challenge me on rated games. I'll play rated games with you. It's not that big a deal. I was terrified of them for a while. Pfft, that's just my ignorance speaking, which is the loudest part of me. When it comes to chess, my ignorance, I've got to, figure that out. So it'll only take me 28 years. I'm not worried about it. So anyway, we're having fun online. We're practicing, as Open File told me today. He said, these games we play are fabulous study games. You end up losing interest in whether you're going to win or lose. You learn more by saying, okay, now that you've got your rook here, you keep telling me don't give your opponent a file. I've got a file. What's my best way to take that file away from you instead of you keeping it, right? And so we will both, in the comment section, talk it through. I'll say, well, first, I do want to push that central pawn and take your knight out of the center, right? So he makes his move, whatever move it's going to be. Eventually, you're going to want to develop your bishop, get your bishop out here, and then you're going to want to move your rook over. Notice the file isn't open, so how do you open a file? You keep pushing the pawn until it's exchanged, right? For instance, let's say just by happenstance he did that, your opponent did that, and you take the pawn. You want to take the pawn to open the file, and then you can contest it. An Open File was expressing a concern about his pawn chain, a very valid concern. And we talked that through. He asked me point blank, he said, well, okay, you're telling me to push this pawn though, however, that goofs up my pawn chain. And it did. So, and it depends on the circumstances, and we were looking at the board position. It's more valuable to quit worrying about your pawn chain and open up a file to get your rooks into the game, because the rooks are stronger than the pawn chain. So, see, these are the kind of things we talk about. Whether bishops of the same color in the end game, king, pawn, rook endings, specific openings, the Ruy Lopez, the queen gambit accepted or declined, etc. So we are having a study session together online. And it is phenomenal to do. It's especially fun to do if you can do it with someone who's extremely much higher rated than you. And eventually I will get to this point, I believe, if they can have time, with my good friends Odoker and Juser and Phoenix. I played Phoenix 4 rapid games today, and he absolutely blew me off the boards. Oh boy, I suck at speed because I get so, antsy. Oh, I've got to hurry up and move. I've got to hurry up and move. I've only got 3 minutes. Hurry up and move. And I just don't take the time to look as careful. The other reason I like correspondence, honestly, is because I don't have time for so often to play an actual real hour-and-a-half live game, which really sucks at this point. Maybe this summer I can find a way to do that. And Juser has taught us all in our club, in our forum, that speed chess really doesn't help you learn chess. Not as well as a slower game where you try to understand the position. So, anyway, so for those of you who have played me and you've been offended, or if it bothers you that I'm asking you, what do you see in the board right now? Every now and then I'll just ask someone, how do you read this board position? Who's better, you or me? And why are we better? And because you think you're better on the king side than the queen side, what's your next move gonna be There's been a few people who say, I'm not going to tell you that. I don't want to give my strategy and secrets away. No, that's not why I'm asking you. You're playing to try to win and lose, and yes, ultimately that is the goal, of course. I'm playing in order to learn and study and practice different tactics or strategies or whatever. So when I say to you, hey, I want to try Dark Side of War, we do this all the time. He is so phenomenal to do this with. I'm telling you, it's a ball. Because we'll make 3 or 4 moves, and all of a sudden, I will see a tactic where I get his rook, and we both laugh like crazy. I go, yeah, baby, I like this variation. Write it down and memorize it. And then he says, okay, let's go back 4 moves, so we give each other 4 takebacks. Boom, 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 back to the position. And he said, my mistake was pushing the pawn, right? It exposed the rook. I said, yeah, right. So let's try something different. And he then tries a different move. And within 4 or 5 or 6 moves, all of a sudden, blam, he's hitting me with the tactic. And I lose my queen. Or I lose 2 pawns. In exploring different variations together in a casual game, that's how we're learning chess, you guys. It is so much fun. I mean, we laugh, we tease each other, we keep saying, hey, quit picking on my pawn, or the king wants to go for a stroll, or the little lady wants to go smell the flowers. We're having fun. We're serious about playing chess, don't get me wrong. But it's fun to study together and learn, and playing casual gives us that. I've said that 20 times now. I know you're bored to death. You already shut off the video 15 minutes earlier when I quit the games. So bless your hearts, you didn't have to listen to me for the last 15 minutes. Way to go, you guys. Anyway, that's it for tonight. I've got a busy weekend ahead of me. I hope I can make a couple more videos. But in the meantime, be good, do well, have fun, be happy, keep smiling. I'm serious. It's funner than heck to bug people because you're genuinely smiling, because you're genuinely happy. They notice, I'm telling you. Just try it. It's a hoot. It's fun. Besides, you might make friends. You never know. Ooh, wouldn't that be something? Anyway, thanks, you guys. Appreciate all of you. I really do appreciate all of you. Have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next Backyard Professor Chess video.